Alrighty, everybody. Let's hop into this game and see what we can get ourselves into this time. We'll start with our queen pawn, like we've done in the past. Just trying to continue to expand on our queen's pawn game, if possible. So we're going for a gambit, right? We're technically giving the option to my opponent to take this pawn, and they're going for a pretty standard queen's gambit declined. Rotate my knight up. I'm trying a new move order. And this is the beginning of the Catalan opening. So, and I'm gonna put my knight here. I could put the knight up. Yeah, see that capture happens. And then I do, what do I do? I'm supposed to go here. No, I do this. Right. Right, we can capture that later. So we're down a pawn. We've gambited the pawn, we're down a pawn. We're gonna put our queen to c2. We're ready to castle. Our bishop is along this nice long diagonal. I think we're in good shape. I would have liked to have gotten my dark square bishop out somewhere, but I blocked it in with my own, I blocked it in with my own knight. So that happens. I think I should have continued with the normal move order. So the normal move order is to put the knight on c3. So this is an option that can happen because of this, right? But now I am attacking both pieces. Just make sure I'm not missing anything. I think I'm okay. This comes with check. So I just capture here. So my opponent is up a pawn again. So I captured a pawn back, but my opponent is now back up a pawn. So they took 2 pawns to my 1. That's okay. I have now double attacking, and everything should be defended, right? If he captures here, I pick up. There's nothing attacking my queen, so there's no danger. And we just capture back this way. And all is well in the world. We're still down a pawn, so that is something to consider. This variation does mean that there are challenges that we are facing. Start by castling. This is defended. Now we need to do something with this dark square bishop. And what do we want to do with our dark square bishop? Capture, opponent recaptures back. Or if he recaptures back this way. I'm not certain yet. I need to get my queen to a better location. That traps my bishop, but it would open up some lanes over here. Let me think this through real quick. So my opponent pushes. I then capture, capture, capture back with the bishop. And the queen is coming here. Is that enough? Is that enough to give up my knight for these 2 pawns? My opponent's already up a pawn. So that would be me going down 4 points of material, only getting back 2 points. I'm going to try it. This is a very risky strategy. I'm going to try it. I'm assuming my opponent's going to push down. I'm about to bring my rook over. I should have done that first. I should have done that first. I should have done that first. Bring the rook over first. Drive the queen off of this location. I guess the queen could have come here. But if I drive, yeah, the queen only has two choices at that point in time, here or here. So which rook do we bring in? Let's go with this one. We'll bring the rook into the game. All right, so I'm debating on making this exchange right now. That brings the queen here. I'm going to start with this. So this puts 1, 2, 3 attackers on this particular square. I could have just gone for it directly. Right, just move my knight out of the way and then capture. My opponent captures back, and then I capture the pawn. Yeah, but this way I get to do a rook lift. Is it too early for a rook lift? I'm not certain. What happens if this pawn pushes? If I capture here, then it's capture, 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 right? Capture. So I'm giving up a bishop. Bishop and a queen for a knight and a queen. Yeah, that would be all right. At the end of the day, that pawn's the last one standing. Or if he just captures with a pawn, I could just come here. All right, so let's do. If he pushes that way, all right, let's. I think it's too soon to double, but damn it, I kind of want to. How many times have I moved this queen? Not much recently, actually. All right, let's do it. Let's put the queen there. Now, however, this becomes, yeah, so that's the danger I was considering. If he captures, I capture. If he captures, I just still have to move the queen. But I can put the queen here. Actually, I could put the queen here. Is that what I want to do? No, gosh, no, I don't want to do that. Okay. So if the rook comes over, I can... No, I can't. Yeah, the rook comes over, I can capture. So I have 2 attackers here. My opponent has 2 defenders, that square. So we're even on that particular square. But once he moves his rook out of the way, I mean his bishop out of the way, then he takes control of it. I gotta move faster. Let's go for a queen trade and see if we can get the queens off the board. So I'm pre-moving that to get myself a couple of seconds back. My other rook is going to come over from A to D1. And then we can put the bishop here on E4. Oh, you guys can't see my cursor. Okay. So there is a danger now of the rook coming over. And in that case, I'm going to bring the queen all the way back to... Yeah, the question... I think the queen's coming all the way back. All right. Now this pawn is available for my opponent. But so is that pawn, which also means that pawn. I think that's okay to do. I'm trying to pay attention. I'm trying to think my way through these things, guys. This is a new kind of format for me to try these different move orders and try some different things out and see how those games develop. So this is going to get the rooks off the board. If the queen comes down, I've got an escape route still. If the bishop comes around, that's a problem. If this bishop moves here, that's where things get a little ugly and I need to drop my bishop back. And that may be too little too late, actually. Okay, so that's good. That's helpful. Because now I am safe and secure and I can start pushing my pawns. Alrighty, so we're fully into an endgame now. I'm going to slide my bishop back here somewhere. Maybe try to put pressure along this side of the things. I'm not sure. I've got to keep an eye on this outside pawn. It's not a passed pawn, just like mine isn't a passed pawn either. Now, if my opponent moves the queen, it's checkmate, because the escape square is covered. That's the same thing I was worried about with my opponent when his bishop was back here, was if the bishop blocks off my escape square, then there is trouble to be had. And I push. My opponent's probably going to push to stop me. And then I can't push this one, but I can push these guys. Let's go to a dark square. So my opponent's going to grab this pawn here. But there's no check. There's no way I can trap this queen just yet. If he goes here, it becomes game over really fast because I've got this. So the king has to come here. This is undefended, so I have to be careful. I don't have a lot of time left, so I'm just going to go for the draw and see if my opponent will take a draw. We're dead even in material. The board position is pretty even. He has a light square bishop, so he can't queen on a1. I have a light square bishop, so I'm not queening over here. Okay. So now I've got something, because that comes with check, and then I get to pick up here. So now we've got something. I'm gonna have to move fast to get this end game rocking and rolling, but and now we go in for the kill. And actually, it might go here. Oops. Here to here. I think that does it. Well, that that changed really quickly here, didn't it? So we go here. My opponent, king, has to run this way, and then I go here, and that's checkmate. Excellent move by my opponent. Now what? Let me just grab this. Then we'll just start pushing a pawn. I'm going to push this guy up as well to lock this structure in place. So now I've got an extra pawn and an extra queen. All I have to do is not run into this guy, and we are A-okay. He gave up control of this square. I'm going to just trade. And actually, I think I can do this. So let's see if I can do this correctly. I'm on the I'm on the fifth square. So I've cut off all of these. So let me show you real quick. Let me give GG, well played to my opponent. So from here, this is the game plan. So my king is on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th square and 4th square. So it's in this 5x4 box. The reason that's important is because my opponent's king has some movement it can make. So my opponent's king is not restricted, right? If we move to a 4x4 box, let me go to the analysis, right? So my opponent is not restricted by what he can do. I mean, he's restricted, but he's not stalemated. If we move to a 4x4 box, this is where things can get really, really iffy, and you have to be really, really extra careful because your opponent is really restricted. And we don't want to accidentally put ourselves in a stalemate. So I prefer this box, a 5x4. And the reason I prefer a 5x4, so from here, well, actually, this was the last move. So let me delete from here. From here, the opponent has moves. I'm going to use my king, and I'm going to close the door. That's all we're going to do. Notice he still can move. He is cut off, though, right? Doing this with a rook works just as well, except with a rook, you can get a little bit closer because you don't have to worry about accidentally stalemating along the diagonal, right? So the opponent can now move something like this. Well, maybe that's fine. We'll just keep it. We'll do our pattern. Okay, yeah. From here, we don't want to accidentally block our queen, so we're gonna just force our opponent to make a move. I guess I have to do it this way. But see, now that we're back on this 5x4, I can drive in, and now we have a wall. So the opponent's king can't go anywhere, but he can still wiggle back and forth. So if he wiggles there, we just waste a move. He has to wiggle back, and then we checkmate. So that's exactly how you would do it with a rook, except with a rook you can get a little bit closer because you don't have to worry about the diagonal. The trick is... Yeah, the trick was right here, because my opponent's king was so far forward, making sure that we didn't accidentally cut off and allow them to jump to the other side of the fence. And then you get into that weird back and forth, jumping across the fence, and we don't want to do that. So, right here, if we close the box down too much, We take opposition. Yeah, this works too. So I guess we can do it by the 4x3. We just have to be real careful. You don't accidentally cut your opponent's. You don't accidentally cut your you don't accidentally end up in stalemate. Right, like this. The opponent has one square he can go to. If I go here, this is stalemate. My opponent has no legal moves. Can't go here, right? These are all are illegal moves, but he's not in check. So this is a stalemate. And that's what we don't want. So that's what happens when your queen is too close, because the queen takes away these squares. If this were a rook, right? If this were a rook, we don't have to worry about that, and the king can wiggle back and forth between just these two squares. The queen, we have to give a little bit more wiggle room. So that's why I recommend giving yourself a little bit more space and then just driving with your king until they go to the back row, whatever the back row is. I'm going sideways. And then take opposition. If they go up here where our queen wants to sit, that's fine. We'll just waste a move. The only valid move is to go here, and then we just, any one of these squares is checkmate because we have a wall built. All right, let's go back to the very beginning. So this is traditional Queen's Gambit declined, and now we're moving into a Catalan opening. I think officially this would be. Why is this not a Catalan opening? I don't know why. I'll have to look at my notes again. Why this isn't a Catalan? That's why I thought this was a Catalan opening. That's why I went for this line. Just I'm trying to learn this, and I'm not. The few times I played it now, I'm not in love with the positions I've ended up in because I've always ended up in this weird shaky position. I'm gonna go back to knight c3 and try it from there. So right here, I would I'm gonna turn the engine on, and oh, it wants me to do bishop. See, I went knight to. See, that's the move I made, was this one, but I'm not in love with it because it blocks my queen's influence of this particular pawn, which means my opponent can grab it. Yeah, we never went into that Catalan. Oh well. So that is not the correct move. But doesn't that just allow this? With check and then pick up. Right. And then we have two attackers here. And my opponent only has one defender. Okay. All right. That is interesting. So this is how the game played out. I'm trying not to ignore you guys, I promise. Promise I'm not ignoring you. I'm just also trying to process in my brain. So I went with this move order, and it hates this move order. Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised my opponent didn't grab here. Yeah, as soon as my opponent... So this is where we jump into a brand new game. Looks like there have been a couple other games played in the past. Knight captures on f3 with check, mind you. That's one of the kickers, is that comes with check. And black has a decided advantage. Of the 5 games, it looks like 3 black won, 1 white won, and 1 drew. These are high-level games, too. The guys in the 2000s. So, interesting. Very interesting. All right, turn that off. So my opponent went for this grab. Maybe he's expecting me to grab this way. Not certain. This is the move I was expecting. I honestly figured my opponent would grab here. That's why I wanted to get my bishop up early so that I can grab it back this way. My king is still defending my bishop. That's the move order I was expecting, but my opponent decided to go slightly different and saved the knight, which is basically an even game. They're up a pawn, so black is up a pawn, but white has evened it out in, what, development, I guess? Yeah, I'm developed. I mean, fully developed. I'm already ready to castle, and all my pieces are activated, and I'm going to be able to stick a rook over on the semi-open file, so I guess that's what the engine is saying, is that technically white has a 1.3 advantage because black has an extra pawn. Not certain. So, yeah, the engine just wants me to castle. Opponent castled, so we're fine there. Rook A to D1. Yeah, I decided to save my my dark square bishop first because now it is undefended. Well, it is only singly defended, and if my opponent were to, I don't know, start walking this pawn down, maybe I don't know, but getting a rook under seems smart. This was a risky maneuver, right? I've already moved my bishop a couple, I've already moved my bishop once. Moving it again doesn't seem as strong as something like this, right? So looking back on it, definitely putting a rook underneath makes more sense, or maybe defending the bishop this way. But putting a rook under seems to make good sense because it's principled, right? It lines the rook up with the queen, and it overly defends my bishop without having to remaneuver the bishop again. So I've already moved it once. I have not moved either one of my rooks. So yeah, maybe that would have been a better move order, is just move my rook. And yep, look, the engine, yeah, the engine is saying any one of the rook moves would have been a smarter choice. So, oops. And then we saw the danger this put us under. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I should have done this first to see if my opponent would go there. That way I can grab, and then something like that. Really start challenging my opponent's position. Looking for something like this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that would have gone. Oops. Too far, Joseph. Too far. Okay, so this is how the game went. Opponent captured. He saved his knight. I castled. He castled. I'm not happy with the bishop move. Yeah, this is what I was trying to calculate, and yeah, that is good for me. With the knight, my opponent doesn't have to capture, but if they do capture, technically they are up. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have a pawn, and they have an extra piece. So they're up a piece exchange. Yeah, that just puts doubles attacks and attacks here. So that seems really good for me. Can't I just take... Oh, right. Yeah, can't I just take? Because what are you going to do? You can't do anything about that. Okay, so now you can do something about it. Oh, right. Duh. I see. It's a fork. And he can take with the knight even, so he doesn't have to... He doesn't drop the knight at the end of that line. Okay, so this is a fork, and so I was thinking, well, if I take, and he takes with, say, rook or the queen, I can slide over and take the knight at the end of that, but no, he can take with the knight back. All right. I don't know what my opponent would have played in this position, honestly. I was considering it, and then, yeah, where do you go from here? Yeah, I guess attacking the queen makes the most sense. Yeah, some interesting developments that could take place there. All right, go back. All right. So castles. I stick the bishop up there. Not happy with that. Rotate the bishop around, and then my opponent goes for this rook slide. I'm assuming getting ready to start pushing this pawn down. I wish I'd done the rook move earlier. That would have made me happier to do the rook move earlier. Yeah, it does not like this move at all. Where should I have stuck my queen? Because this is what I really struggle with, is where do I stick my queen after all this? It says black has an advantage. So you know what? I did not play this as well as I wanted to, guys. Black has an advantage. And, okay, yeah, going onto a dark square, so the light square can't come into play. Yeah, I probably should have just gone here. Kept that, a little bit of that pressure. So I debated on sticking the queen here, but then when the rook comes over, I guess I just start picking up pawns? I don't know. Yeah, and then this position I think is where it fell apart for my opponent. I don't think he saw that I could infiltrate. This is what I was concerned about, because after we make this exchange, I grab a pawn. Now, if my opponent had gone here, it says it's good for me. This is what I was concerned about, because this is checkmate. So if I were to make a silly move, yeah, that's 100% checkmate, just like that, because my escape square is taken away. But maybe, I don't know. So the threat that I was worried about was worth the pawn drop. What I felt was a pawn drop, because I was able to trade pawns, and then from here, yeah, I have a decided advantage. Yep, this pawn move is the killer one. It's amazing to me how something as simple as pushing your pawn 2 squared versus 1 is a major difference. Because if you had just gone 1 and then I grab, what's the difference? Rook d8. The difference is I can't just grab the pawn now. Right. There's not another free pawn sitting around. Yeah, so that pawn is still defended. Okay, that's the difference. All right, well, that's not how it went. My opponent decided to push. Defending this pawn, yes, but undefending the base of that chain. So that's what you have to remember. When you push a pawn, you'll always end up with a backward pawn somewhere. So anytime you make a pawn move, you can't undo it. So make sure you think carefully about your pawn pushes. And that becomes an immediate target. I happen to already have an attacker on it. Luckily, it does come with this threat. Yeah, and trading definitely seems responsible. So now, white is up a pawn, right? Yeah, white is up a pawn. White drops a pawn. White gets a pawn back. So white is up 1 pawn. These 4 to 3 at majority. And then, unfortunately, so what is the engine? The engine says get the king up. Right. That's what I should have done. Start getting the king involved in the game. I went bishop e4. And so now we're back to, wow, that lost my entire advantage somehow. Yep, so now we're back to so this is that draw that I was talking about. Yep, and the engine agrees with me. It was a draw. So I felt good about going for that draw there. Just trying to get a threefold repetition in. Yeah, what if he had done this? Can I still get? Yeah, because I can do that and that. Yeah, so we can still get a repetition in. But we had the opportunity, and then unfortunately, this was something that we saw early. As soon as we got into this position way back here, I said, "There's tactics I'm looking for. I'm looking for tactics because we know what happens. I have an undefended queen. He has an undefended queen. The only thing in between him is a piece I control. So, want to be conscious of that and understand that." My opponent could have gone, let's say I did something like that, right? My opponent could have easily gone here. Two attackers. Yeah, that would make me really have to work for it. Granted, we've still got this, but would have really had to make me work for it. And you could see how dangerous that could get really fast. But instead, we went through all of this checking, essentially offered a draw, right? By voluntarily doing this kind of maneuvering, I offered a draw. And my opponent made the cardinal mistake. The piece that's between our two undefended pieces that I control, that's a tactic that we've had used against us many times. And this time we were able to get it back. Right, guys? We were able to do it to someone else. And then, yeah, from here on out, unfortunately, it just captured. I mean, there's really no choice at this point in time. It doesn't matter what my opponent does. Can't approach the queen to put pressure on the queen. Can't save his own queen. There's nothing he can do with his queen. So just take the piece. And yeah, I think I played the rest of this pretty well. My opponent was keeping an eye on the danger square. I locked up this side of the board. Really happy with that. There's nothing my opponent can do here. My king can now freely go wherever it wants because there's no breaking through on this side. My opponent, I get a passed pawn. And then unfortunately that was the mistake because this bishop is defending this square. And once he moved that off of that square, that gives white too much play. And yeah, from here, yeah, there's probably a faster checkmate than what I did, but I went for the capture. You know, at this point, a queen versus a king, it's just cleanup time. And even someone as bad as me can do this cleanup. I can completely ignore this pawn. I don't care about it at all. In fact, getting it out of the way would help me because it doesn't block my opponent can't use my pawn as a shield. So letting my opponent swallow that guy up was fine with me. Yep, and that's where my opponent conceded because I don't have to move this guy anywhere. I've got passed pawns. I can get, a few more queens if I really wanted. Delete from here. And that's it. So we won one against a really talented opponent, right? Or about the same in the low 1400s. So this felt really good. This felt very comfortable. I'm not in love with this Catalan opening yet. I still have not found a comfort zone with the move order. I'd rather do it the way that I know how, and do this order or this order. And then whatever my opponent plays. I'm going to do, if he does this now, well, he can't do that now. Well, I guess he can. Yeah, I think the knight belongs there instead. I keep wanting to stick it over here on d2 so that way it can, you know, help defend over here and my queen is not having to hang out. But this pawn is I need to be using this pawn, right? My e pawn, I need to be using it instead of letting it just sit there and waste the whole game. So maybe I got some more learning to do. But there are, I'm not there yet with the Catalan. I'm much more comfortable in the Queen's Gambit positions. I'm going to keep trying it because it seems really fun to have this long diagonal. I'm going to keep trying it, and I'm going to keep looking for ways that I can practice it. So thanks for the game, guys. I appreciate you watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye.